When Spider-Man 2 premiered in 2004, it set a new benchmark for superhero movies. Not only did it bring bigger, more intense action, but it also explored the heavy toll of being a hero and the struggles of leading a double life. Naturally, after all that success, fans had sky-high hopes for the third film, expecting another hit. But unfortunately for fans, the film was unable to stick the landing. Let's begin from the very start. After The Amazing Spider-Man 2 in 2014, fans didn't get to see Andrew Garfield suit up as Spider-Man again until Spider-Man No Way Home in 2021. In this ultimate tribute to all things Spider-Man, Garfield returned alongside Tobey Maguire, giving fans a rare glimpse of his character's life after The Amazing Spider-Man 2. But what they saw was a darker, more complicated side of Spider-Man that hadn't been explored before on the big screen. After the events of The Amazing Spider-Man 2, where his character suffered the tragic loss of Gwen Stacy, Garfield's Spider-Man had clearly gone through major emotional changes. He wasn't the hopeful, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man fans had come to know. He was more worn down, carrying visible scars from his past struggles. This marked a big shift, showing a Spider-Man who had battled through deep personal pain, something audiences weren't used to seeing with the character. Fans had originally hoped for an Amazing Spider-Man 3, to see how Peter Parker would cope after Gwen's loss. But after The Amazing Spider-Man 2 received mixed reviews and didn't do well at the box office, Sony decided to cancel any plans for a third film in Garfield's series. This decision left fans with many unanswered questions, and Spider-Man No Way Home only scratched the surface of what Garfield's version had gone through. Instead of seeing his story continue naturally, fans have had to piece together small hints from his dialogue in No Way Home, giving only brief insights into his struggles and growth after the loss of Gwen. In case you've forgotten, here's a quick recap of The Amazing Spider-Man 2. After the first Amazing Spider-Man brought a whole new vibe compared to Tobey Maguire's version, fans were eager for the sequel. But sadly, the movie missed the mark, feeling a bit cluttered. With too many villains and storylines, it was a bit all over the place. It would have worked better with more focus on either Green Goblin or Electro, but not both. 2 years after the first movie's events, Peter faces new challenges with Harry Osborn and Max Dillon, along with a rocky relationship with Gwen Stacy. By the end though, Peter and Gwen manage to patch things up and make plans to move to England together for an Oxford scholarship. But first, Peter needs to deal with the threats of Green Goblin and Electro. Initially, things seem to be going Peter's way. He and Gwen manage to defeat Electro by overloading him with energy, which takes him down for good. But Harry, transformed into the Green Goblin, is still out there. Just as it seems like Peter and Gwen might finally get a happy ending, Harry steps in and throws Gwen from a clock tower. Though Spider-Man acts fast, he's just a split second too late. He catches her in his web, but the sudden stop causes her head to hit the ground, killing her instantly. Her tragic death leaves Peter crushed, leading him to quit his superhero life for 5 months. Eventually though, Gwen's graduation speech gives him the motivation to return.
There will be days where you feel all alone, and that's when hope is needed most.
Reminding him why he became Spider-Man in the first place. What could have happened in The Amazing Spider-Man 3? Let's start with the post-credit scene of The Amazing Spider-Man 2, where we got a glimpse of villainous icons like Dr. Octopus and the Vulture, signaling a more intense direction for the series. At that time, the Vulture had yet to appear in a live-action Spider-Man film, so his inclusion gave fans something new to look forward to. Sony even confirmed plans for The Amazing Spider-Man 3 and The Amazing Spider-Man 4, with the final goal of leading up to 2 big movies centering around the Sinister Six. However, these ambitious plans never materialized. Had Sony gone ahead with The Amazing Spider-Man 3, it would have likely included more villains from the Sinister Six. Rhino, who appeared briefly at the end of The Amazing Spider-Man 2, might have made a return as the main villain in the next movie. While he didn't get much screen time in the second film, the character could have been fleshed out more, giving Spider-Man a unique, gritty foe to tackle. Adding new members to the Sinister Six lineup would have been exciting for many, showing off fresh faces and upping the stakes for Spider-Man, who had previously been handling 1 or 2 villains at a time. In Spider-Man No Way Home, a discussion between the 3 Spider-Men, played by Tom Holland, Tobey Maguire, and Andrew Garfield, revealed that Garfield's Spider-Man had never faced off against Venom or any alien symbiote. making it unlikely he ever wore the black suit. This might have allowed the Amazing Spider-Man series to go in a completely new direction with its villains, focusing on characters unique to Garfield's universe, without repeating storylines seen in other films. Rather than an external symbiote driving Peter into darkness, the third film could have delved into the internal struggles, especially following Gwen Stacy's death, and created a darker, more complex Spider-Man. Interestingly, Sony's plans at the time also included a possible revival of Gwen Stacy, with Emma Stone reprising her role, but this time with a twist. Rumors indicated that she would return not as the Gwen fans knew, but as a version bonded with the Carnage symbiote, a brutal, chaotic force in the Spider-Man universe. This would have introduced a completely new type of emotional and psychological conflict for Peter, as he would now have to face off against the love of his life in a violent and destructive form. This plotline could have given Peter a chance to confront his grief and anger, ultimately moving past his sadness and finding a way to continue as Spider-Man without Gwen by his side. Her return as a villain would have created a mix of horror and heartbreak, showing Peter in an emotional battle that's far more complex than any physical fight he's had before. If The Amazing Spider-Man 3 had introduced the Sinister Six with characters like Dr. Octopus, Vulture, and Rhino, it could have easily become one of the darkest entries in the Spider-Man franchise. Garfield Spider-Man hinted at this possibility in No Way Home, mentioning how he'd grown rageful after Gwen's death.
I got rageful.
Tense hero than the playful, quipping Spider-Man seen in previous films. This version of Peter Parker, with his grief fresh and his optimism shaken, would likely have faced off against his enemies with a new edge, giving fans a look at a more raw, troubled Spider-Man. The storyline of The Amazing Spider-Man 3 could have further explored the impact of Gwen's death on Peter's character. Since he had already been pushed to the edge, seeing Gwen as an antagonist might have forced him to grapple with deep moral questions about heroism and personal responsibility. How would Peter respond to facing a version of Gwen controlled by an evil symbiote? Would he be able to fight her if it meant saving others? Or would his love for her prevent him from seeing her as a threat? This tension between love and duty could have led to a deeper, more mature portrayal of Peter's character, making him more relatable to an adult audience while keeping his heroic core intact. Sony's initial plan to make The Amazing Spider-Man 3 a setup for a Sinister Six movie would have been ambitious, pushing the boundaries of what fans had come to expect from superhero films. Introducing multiple villains not only makes for exciting action scenes, but would have also given Peter different dynamics to go through, especially if each villain brought a different style of conflict. For example, Dr. Octopus could have served as a mentor figure turned enemy, playing with Peter's emotions, while Vulture's cunning tactics could have forced Spider-Man into situations he couldn't handle with brute force alone. Each villain would have added another layer to the story, challenging Peter in unique ways. Unfortunately, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 didn't perform as expected at the box office, and Sony decided to scrap these big plans. The sudden halt left the franchise with loose ends and unfulfilled potential, leaving fans to speculate about what a third movie might have looked like. Andrew Garfield's appearance in Spider-Man No Way Home provided a brief but satisfying return for his character, allowing him to tie up some emotional threads by bonding with the other Spider-Men and giving him a chance to save a version of MJ, thus helping him find closure after Gwen's death. Yet, this short appearance only fueled fans' curiosity, making them long for a proper conclusion to Garfield's Spider-Man story. If The Amazing Spider-Man 3 had been made, it would have likely been a turning point in Spider-Man cinema, offering audiences a story that wasn't afraid to get dark and emotional. It could have explored Peter's journey from loss to acceptance, with powerful villain dynamics and a storyline that tested the character's core values. With the return of Gwen as Carnage and the formation of the Sinister Six, this third installment could have offered a Spider-Man film unlike any before, redefining what it means to be a hero in a world where every choice has consequences. Although Sony's plans didn't materialize, the fan base's interest remained strong, with many still hoping for Andrew Garfield's return in some form, even if it's not in Amazing Spider-Man 3. Whether it's a multiverse crossover or a continuation of his storyline, Garfield's portrayal of Spider-Man holds a special place in the hearts of fans, making it clear that even if he doesn't get a full solo movie, his impact on the character will never be forgotten. Thanks for watching, everybody, and don't forget to like and subscribe to Director's Cut for more great content.